Sorry about that.
Cool. Okay. So I'm gonna go full screen. Can everybody see?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Nice. So welcome to my degree project, which is called Social Butterfly, Redefining What Social Anxiety Is. Just a little bit of a disclaimer, I am as well socially anxious, so if I seem really nervous or speak really fast, those are just things that come with it. Let's get started. So what is social anxiety? There's a lot of different definitions for social anxiety and the ways that people perceive it. So going into it, according to Merriam-Webster, social anxiety is a form of anxiety that is brought about by social situations such as meeting strangers, dating, or public speaking, in which embarrassment or a negative judgment by others may occur. But the honest answer is social anxiety is being in a room filled with people but feeling alone and overwhelmed by everything and everyone. It's wanting to go out and be friends with or meet new people but feeling scared for seemingly no reason. It's like trying to fit in somewhere where you don't belong at times. And for anybody watching who has social anxiety, you know that this is exactly what it feels like. Social anxiety is pretty common. 1 in 8 adults in the US will experience clinical levels of social anxiety during their lifetime. To give a little context on the history of social anxiety, the concept of social fear dates back to 400 BC, where Hippocrates described an overly shy person as someone who loves darkness as life and thinks every man observes him fell into this category. In the early 1900s, the first mention of the psychiatric term social phobia was made, and psychologists used this term social neurosis to describe extremely shy patients. Throughout these years, research on phobias and their treatment grew. And finally, in the 1980s, social anxiety officially became known as a disorder and was included as an official psychiatric diagnosis. It is now known as the social anxiety disorder, or SAD. Knowing what I know about social anxiety through my own experiences with it and what I've researched, the next step was to begin interviewing people, and I put up a survey that would help me understand what other people's needs were. The next few slides are going to be the questions I've asked and the answers that I got back. So I asked, have you sought out help for your social anxiety? And I got answers like people have gone to therapy sessions, they've used different apps like Joyable, Talkspace, etc. And they're also on medications such as Zoloft, Effexor, and Xanax. I also asked, how has your social anxiety affected your everyday life? I got answers like they never feel like going out, they can't communicate properly at work, stops me from living my everyday life, missing a lot of opportunities in college, and it made me a homebody. And what are some coping skills / goals you wish to improve on? People said, I want to get over my fear of going to the gym, putting myself out there more, find a way to control my overthinking, and I want to practice exposure therapy. And overall, I heard I became good at hiding my social anxiety. I would do just anything and everything to avoid having to experience anything social, like leaving early, faking an illness, faking plans, and really just making any excuses. So based off my research and interviews, I put together a scale measuring social anxiety from mild to severe. So from mild, you have people that are not medically diagnosed or on any form of medication. They don't feel the need to seek therapy. They go out and try to interact with others, but may not have a good time. There's also severe, which is at the complete other end of the spectrum, which are people that are medically diagnosed and on medication such as Xanax, Effexor, Zoloft, etc. Having sought out help through psychiatrists, group therapy, online resources, and more, and they make excuses for not wanting to go out. And in the middle, you have people who fall into moderate, who may or may not be medically diagnosed and have sought out help, and they also experience an in-between of mild and severe symptoms of social anxiety. Later on, I also learned that a scale like this already exists, and it's called the Social Phobia Inventory, also known as SPIN. It was developed at Duke University and has been clinically validated as a measure of social anxiety going from subclinical to very severe. So now for the big question, the big degree project question. How can design be used to develop better experiences for people who deal with social anxiety to make it easier to live a life without constant barriers? This topic was inspired by my own personal struggles with social anxiety, longing for a resource that would make me feel safe, secure, and not alone. Through different lens, methods, and tools, the goal is to help those who are in the moment of having an anxiety attack or just wanting to overcome their social anxiety. So how can design be used to develop better experiences? I believe social anxiety awareness could help us design more meaningful and inclusive experiences. So I started looking into different solutions that would help people with social anxiety. I found a lot of great resources like the Mind Gnosis Kit, Seeds, Smarterphones, and Calming Stone. All of these were resources I found online created by different designers and other people that help people with anxiety and social anxiety. As I started to think of a solution that would be free, easily accessible to everyone, and easy to use, I decided on creating an app that would do just that and started researching what already existed in the UX UI world for social anxiety, which led me to apps like Headspace, Joyable, Talkspace, and more. These apps were great and I tested them out for myself, but they aren't quite affordable for everyone, which doesn't make it easily accessible. I really wanted to create a resource specifically for young women who experience social anxiety anywhere on the scale, and this led me to my visual inspiration for how I wanted my app to feel and look, which is calm, soft, compassionate, warm, and supportive. And finally, for the solution I came up with is Cocoon. Cocoon is an app made for women by women, creating a safe community for those who experience social anxiety, hopefully helping them grow into their most comfortable selves and overcome their social anxiety. Stemming from my own struggles with anxiety and how it has affected my everyday life, I've always longed for a resource that is accepting, accessible, and effective. Cocoon also focuses on these three guiding design pillars. The first being human, a feeling of inclusivity and compassion within the community of the app, no matter your race, age, religion, or social class. Next, being simple, clear communication and design for those who are overwhelmed and in a constant state of anxiousness. And last, being calming, giving peace of mind to users through an understanding of their individual needs in order to grow throughout their personal journeys. So finally, let's get into the app. In a scenario where a user is experiencing the onset or moment of having an anxiety attack, they can access the app through the control center of their phone for quick access. The app prompts them with a questionnaire, which makes it easier to know how to help the user and which exercises to give them at that moment. And it looks like this. Then getting into the exercises were designed with simplicity and calming colors, which is helpful for someone who is experiencing an anxiety attack. So if you're having an anxiety attack, it would give you a breathing exercise that would look just like this. And at the end of every session, users can give their feedback and express how they felt about the overall experience. For users who are just logging in normally on a daily basis, there's always a check-in feature to let Cocoon and yourself know how you're feeling that day. You can also chat with your own personal counselor who's trained in anxieties, but especially if you had a rough morning like having an anxiety attack. Speaking to your counselor, they can help you with different issues that you have. And next, if you're looking to learn more about social anxiety in order to help yourself further your knowledge, the Discover page has insights that are reviewed by doctors and professors. On your home screen, there are activities that are in progress, not yet started, and finished. You can scroll through your activities on your homepage and see which ones you want to work on. Those activities were picked out based on the user's history with the app, personalizing their individual journey. Each activity has the same format where it starts off with educating the user on the topic, then following is the exercise to practice. For example, practicing your self-esteem can help you overcome your social anxiety. Once you've completed an activity, you're awarded with a badge. This helps users stay motivated and on path to overcoming their social anxiety. On your home screen, you can also assign yourself tasks or goals you wish to complete. Every time you log onto the app, you can add a new task and also cross them off as you finish them, which looks like this. And you can also, on your home screen, track your progress with Cocoon. You can see what stage you're at in your journey, as well as the stats and badges you've earned. And over time, watch yourself evolve from an egg to a full-grown butterfly that has hopefully overcome her social anxiety in a process similar to the life cycle of a butterfly. Even once a user has reached the butterfly stage in their Cocoon journey, we hope that they continue to work on their social anxiety through Cocoon. And finally, Cocoon is more than an app, it's a community. Users can keep up with all things Cocoon through social media as well as merchandise that ties the community together. And thank you. That's my presentation on social anxiety.
Virtual clapping. Well, thank you. This was really nice. I think you did a great job on the research and the background.
Thank you.
And those of you that are here now, feel free to jump in at any time. Even for those of you that might have seen this before, with questions or comments, feel free to join in the conversation. I think what I really appreciated about it, it kind of clicked more toward the end, was the idea of the social butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that whole concept of going from cocoon, because you think about this warm, cozy, small space you could wrap yourself in. You don't have to deal with anybody else, or put yourself into any situation that doesn't make you comfortable, to the idea of evolving into this butterfly or social butterfly. So that whole concept, coming up with that, the name of your app and the concept kind of woven throughout that, I really appreciated that, and I thought that was really lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, starting out the project, I always had like the word social butterfly in the back of my head because I thought it was interesting that social butterfly, when you think of that word, you think of extroverts and people who are out there. But I think that also that word can also apply to people who are trying to like break out of their cocoon and become a social butterfly and just become someone that's becoming more comfortable with themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is great. And now I'm curious too. Somebody was saying something. Go ahead.
It was me, sorry. Amy, I had a question. I love when these degree projects are so personal.
Mhm.
And so how was that for you, sort of putting yourself out there and talking about those things? Do you see, just going through this process, was there some sort of catharsis for you?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've never really mentioned my social anxiety, especially like in school or in front of like my peers. So throughout the process of degree project, having to talk about my project and also my own experiences has really helped me, especially when I was doing the interviews and surveys. Anytime you feel like you have a disadvantage, you feel really alone, which I felt like for most years. But after doing the surveys and the interviews, I know that there's tons of people out there that are just like me and have it may be severe or less severe, but we're all like in this together, which made me feel better throughout the end. So
Great. Yeah, no, I want to echo what Yvette was saying about the concept and how it was woven through. I thought that was really, really strong. And I also thought, the one of your missions was to, be soothing. And I felt that came through the color palette, typeface choices, the very simple icons you were using, but they still communicated a lot. So I thought that was really nice.
thank you.
Yeah, I agree totally. And the idea of having the badges too, even though it's a little thing, it's a little bit of like a endorphin boost when you do achieve a new level or complete a new, what do I call it, a task,
A new activity, yeah.
activity. Just that little of a boost, I think, could be very motivating for people. Because I think it's proven that likes on social media and things like that give you that boost of, I don't know, endorphins, is that the right word? And so I think even those, if they're not even if they're not shared with others, it's still a nice little boost. I think that could keep somebody going through the app and keep using it. Did you get a chance to talk to anybody or show anybody that you surveyed the final product for feedback to see, is this something that you would use?
I didn't get the chance, like the people that I had interviewed in survey, I didn't get the chance to get feedback. I've mostly only gotten feedback from my class as well as a few other people. That would be interesting. I think with everything that's been going on, that's a great idea, but it hasn't gone through my head to share with people that I surveyed with.
It would be interesting to see, especially people that you surveyed, if they have used those other apps, Headspace and those others that they're a little bit pricey. I've tried Headspace before.
For the purpose of this project, I actually tried all of them and did the free trials of all of them. It was really nice, but just taking little bits of like each app of like things that I liked, and then also seeing things that I didn't like throughout those apps was really helpful when creating Cocoon.
Yeah, that's great. And it's part of a thorough research is to try the other competitor or closely resembling competitor products out there. So I'm glad you got a chance to try them. What was your favorite out of them?
I liked the look and feel of Headspace, but I think the one that was more helpful for me was Joyable. They have a lot of great like exercises, and also they teach you things about social anxiety and things that I had never known of before, even though I do experience it.
Is it likely that when somebody's having an anxiety attack that they would turn to their phone and do something that's, I guess, so it feels very irrational? Is it something that is as somebody with anxiety, is it something that you feel you would turn to your phone to say, oh, I'm having an anxiety attack, let me fire up this app?
Usually when I'm feeling stressed, I don't have anxiety attacks often. It's very rare. But when I am in that feeling, I think I turn to my phone just to put it on Do Not Disturb because I don't want to be bothered. Also, people may look to listening to music to help them calm down. So I feel like your phone is something that you have with you at all times. And if you ever have an emergency, you would call someone, or God forbid, like call the police or something. So I feel like their phone is something that they could turn to kind of as like a helpful aid in the app.
Yeah, that makes sense. Has anybody that's joining us now that hasn't seen the project want to weigh in with questions or comments? You're welcome to join.
You can also type in the chat if you don't want to.
Good point. Yeah.
I did have one question regarding your target audience. and said you mentioned that you focus primarily on women, and
Mhm.
I don't want to assume you did that because you're a woman yourself, but can you
Yeah.
talk about how you came to that conclusion and how you think things might change if you wanted to approach this for kids or other
Mhm.
genders?
Yeah, definitely. So at first, I wanted to focus on a target audience that was smaller, more that I could relate to, and it would be helpful when I was doing research. And when I was doing research with the apps, I noticed that like all of the apps were very inclusive for everyone. There wasn't anything specifically like catered towards women. And after doing my interviews and my surveys, I learned that women are more prone to do things to keep up with their social anxiety. Like as women who have like apps for their menstrual cycle, you do things that like you keep a log, you go up and you keep up with those things more than men would, just based off the interviews and surveys that I did. So based off that, I thought it'd be interesting to narrow it down a lot by making it just for women. And I think with like the aesthetic of the app and the color choices, um, I think it caters most towards women. But yeah.
Because I could see this, being almost a series, like especially kids, would have a different look and feel and maybe different kind of tasks, that sort of thing. So I can see this, extending beyond, cocoon for kids
Yeah.
sort of thing.
It definitely have like a different language to it as well.
Yeah, that's a great thought too. Did you, in your research, or is there other research out there that breaks down, um, male versus female social anxiety? Like, is it more prominent in men, more prominent in women?
I actually didn't find that. That's a good question. I wonder because most of the, when I did my research and I put a survey out there, I noticed that I got more feedback from women that were like willing to participate in the interviews and the surveys. Um, I don't know if the men that I was reaching out to were just like not interested or they just didn't want to share that part of themselves, but that would be something interesting to look into.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if this was ever a project that took off into the world, if it if men is a big audience, how you could shift this to include
Mm-hmm.
a male voice, because I think it would be very helpful for a lot of people to have something like this right on their phone at their disposal. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very curious to know if it's more prominent or maybe just more talked about. Women tend to be more open with their feelings of generalizing, and talking about them, perhaps. So that could be an interesting avenue to take.
There is a big stigma that women are more open to talking about issues like anxiety and social anxiety rather than men. So that is interesting.
Hmm. I did notice one small detail on your app is, it looked like a chat feature to talk to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like more of a chat feature, but it had an email icon. So I'm wondering, is it more of an email feature, more of a chat feature? Maybe you could have a chat icon instead if it's more chat-like.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's mainly for chatting with a counselor who is trained, not specifically it would come off as like your therapist and kind of as like your person that you can turn to in the app to speak to. But that is a good point. That is the first time I'm hearing that though about the little mail icon, so that is helpful.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but it just depends on the functionality of it. And if it's more chat-like, you might want to switch it to a chat icon so that's just not
That's true.
um, confusing. But it's a very small thing. And I'm also wondering, just curious, at the beginning you talked a lot about shyness,
Mm-hmm.
um, and has it is it is there a difference between someone who's considered shy and someone who is socially has social anxiety? Is it the same thing or is it considered different?
I would consider it different. I think it is considered two different things. You can be shy in public settings, but for people who have social anxiety, it's much deeper. You feel like heart palpitations anytime you're within a crowd, even have to go out for lunch with someone, or sometimes I get like super nervous and embarrassed just to speak on the phone, like on the train. Like I don't like to do that at all because I think that like people are listening to me and it's just like a form of embarrassment. The reason why I talked about shyness was because before social anxiety became a disorder and became known to the DSM, they described people who had social anxiety as being shy and introverts, but I think there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think before, like all the research, they did describe people as just being shy.
Interesting. Yeah, I always wonder if they're more linked than they come across as being, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And is anybody here from your class that would like to weigh in, that has seen this project kind of evolve? I'm interested to hear if you guys have comments or questions too. I don't know who's in which class, so it's hard for me to say. I see a lot of sophomores and juniors too, so.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, welcome everybody to.
Thank you everyone for coming and waking up early to watch. I know that's a commitment, especially during times like this where you just want to stay in bed, but thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for such a thoughtful presentation and project. I think this really looks wonderful, and you know, thank you for putting yourself out there too. As Amy mentioned, this is a very personal project, and you've sort of opened up to allow it to become public. So and the idea of helping others with something that you're struggling with, I think, is brave. So thank you. Really nice job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I
So
like the clap emoji someone
yeah,
added.
Calvin has a clap emoji.